Guys, welcome to yet another video. Today we are going to be having a little discussion about a film that has completely divided the internet, and that is of course Batman vs Superman: The Dawn of Justice. Now, I think it's fair to say I have very mixed feelings about this film. I was one of the people that was so hyped up for this film, and I'm not particularly a Marvel or a DC mega fan. I don't particularly like the Avengers. Please don't shoot me. Loki was the only reason I kept watching the it's the reason I kept watching the Thor films and the first Avengers. Excuse me. So I was excited for the fact that it was this epic film, and I'm a major fan of Batman from the Nolan trilogy. So I went into this film thinking, okay, I'm expecting this to be fantastic. I've heard good things about Ben Affleck. I don't know what that pronunciation was, Ben Affleck, and I am probably entirely in love with Henry Cavill, so he can do no wrong in my eyes. So I went into this film and I still don't know how I feel. I have seen the film 3 times at this moment in time. 3 times. Still don't know how I feel. But the one thing I want to say before I say anything else, it is nowhere as bad as the critics have made it out to be. It's not a terrible film, and I think the reason that it's been deemed in this way is because in the modern age of the superhero films, you can only have a film that is either fantastic, brilliant, amazing, something to hold everything else up to, or it's awful. There is no middle ground. It's like the Game of Thrones up in here. This film is a good film, and I did really enjoy it. Whether it's fantastic, it's not. But it's not terrible. So I don't know where this massive division has come from. Films can just be okay or good. They don't have to be the thing that you compare everything else to. They don't have to be put on a pedestal, like the Avengers was. I don't really see why. No offence to any Marvel fans out there. I'm probably going to die now. Considering I preferred Man of Steel, so what can you really say about my film preference? So anyway, Batman vs Superman is set 2 years after the events of Man of Steel, and it's about the conflict between Batman and Superman. And that stuff was great. It was really clever the way that it was executed. The lead up to the actual fight was way too freaking long, in my opinion. It takes about an hour and 30 minutes for them to actually fight, and then the fight's over in about 20 minutes. So, but I really liked the whole ideological conflict between them, because first of all, it starts off as an ideological conflict at its centre. Batman is pretty much scared of Superman and his potential. And Superman doesn't approve of Batman's more violent and ruthless methods of dishing out justice. They are not compatible with each other at the beginning of this film. They view the world in 2 completely different ways that mean that their ideologies just keep clashing. And this is something that keeps running through, and it kind of builds up, and then you've got Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, who is exacerbating the conflict by working on both characters' psyches to make them just reach the point where it's fight night. The red capes are coming! The red capes are coming! That was a cheesy line. So you've kind of got all of the psychological manipulation stuff going on with Lex Luthor. But there are also different elements that bring this conflict together, and I really liked all that stuff. Doomsday. Did you really need him? did you really need him in this film? To be honest, you could have got rid of Doomsday, in my opinion. But we'll get onto that a little bit later. Oh, camera's gone a bit skew-with. So, the positives. Go with the positives first. Ben Affleck's Batman is the best portrayal of Batman I have ever seen as a film viewer. He was amazing, and his take on the character of, well, the characters of Batman and Bruce Wayne, because you kind of, in order to convey the character in the right way, you have to get the personalities of both right. Now, although Christian Bale was a fantastic Batman, the Bruce Wayne stuff kind of, the way he portrayed it, he made Bruce Wayne feel like it was a facade, it was fake. So you couldn't really invest with Bruce Wayne as well. Whereas in this film, both the personas, I guess that's what you'd call it, feel fleshed out. You can tell that Bruce Wayne, he's a very emotionally damaged man, but he is still this kind of cheeky playboy billionaire. He's pretty much Tony Stark. I'm pretty sure there's like one scene in the film where he just wakes up and he's got a woman in the bed next to him and he just completely ignores her. So it's like, I see. But his portrayal of Batman was probably more interesting because this Batman had completely abandoned his moral code. Batman was killing people. Now, this is probably spoilers. This review will contain spoilers. I will say it now. So if you haven't gone out and seen the film, go out and see it, come back, and then have this little discussion. Because I think you probably have to see the film. You don't want it spoiled for you, really. Even though the trailer that revealed Doomsday pretty much gave away the entire plot. But, you know, try and go in with as few preconceptions as possible. So, the fact that he's killing people kind of gives you an indication that he has been through so many traumatic experiences, like the death of Robin, that he no longer has a belief in that moral code, and he wants to make fools bleed. I'm pretty sure he incinerated he incinerated at least 2 of the guys. He broke somebody else's neck by dropping them on their heads. He killed quite a substantial amount of people. So who is he to comment on Superman killing a few thousand? So all of the Batman stuff was phenomenal. Ben Affleck, brilliant, phenomenal, love it. And I'm so excited for the prospect of the solo Batman films, because I think Zack Snyder, his strength in this film lied with all of the Batman parts. So I'm really excited to see what he can, even though I don't think he's getting involved in the solo Batman films. But it's going to be interesting to see what Ben Affleck can do with it when he's given all the runtime he deserves. So all of that stuff was amazing. I felt so sad seeing the sad Affleck video. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It is so sad, but it is so funny. He just looks so devastated. Anyway, moving on. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman she doesn't get a lot of screen time at all, but the parts that she was in, you can see she's making the character her own, and I found her dynamic with Batman very interesting. You don't really get to see much of her dynamic with Superman, but that was kind of interesting, where she goes, "I've killed people from other worlds before." I thought, oh snap, Superman, do not mess with her. She will kick your ass, because she's a badass and she's a woman. Therefore, women are always right. Her parts were great, and I'm excited for the Wonder Woman solo film. I think that's going to be really, really good. I have high hopes. There were some of the plot elements that were really, really strong. I found, personally, because, you know, as I said earlier, totally in love with Henry Cavill. And if he burst through the door, I would probably just have a heart attack and die. But his relationship with his own identity as Superman was really interesting, where you kind of see he's in an evolutionary state. He isn't the final Superman yet, and he's still got this emotional weakness, and he makes a load of mistakes that backfire on him. And it's interesting to see him come to terms with the fact that he can't always do the right thing, especially if Lois is concerned, because he does keep saving her. Slightly a negative, but you know. Which is why I think when the ending comes, you kind of... It's a very ballsy move, I will admit that. But you kind of think, yeah, Superman... Major spoilers. Please, if you've hung on this long, just go and watch the film. I do not want to spoil this for you. But when Superman dies, it kind of feels like it has to happen, because he's made so many emotional knee-jerk reactions and responses to certain things that he has to pay for what he's done, and that punishment is getting impaled through the heart, through the S, the death of hope, and being impaled on Doomsday. That was sad. That was really sad. That was so sad. The funeral was also beautifully sad, even though the first time I went to see it, the people in the cinema started laughing at that bit. I was just sitting there, just choking back the tears, just like, I'm a brave little soldier. I'm a brave little soldier. To me, that was just so heartbreakingly sad. The differences in perception, that his true funeral was back in Smallville. He's buried next to his dad, and the fact that he was going to propose to Lois, whew, the feels were real. The feels were real. There was something about that I really didn't like, but I will get to that in my negative points. So I really like that. I really love the cinematography. There's one thing you can say for Zack Snyder. Although he has some real weaknesses, cinematography is his area. He is a visual director. He's a visionary director. And so when he does... It kind of... How to describe this? There are certain scenes in this film that look like they could have come straight out of a comic, and I think that might be something to do with the camera that they used. But the death of Martha Wayne, can't remember what his dad's name is. Oh. The death of Bruce Wayne's parents, where the gunman has his gun underneath Martha's pearls, and when he fires, the pearls just go everywhere. That was so beautiful. I was just like, oh, I approve of this. And it's just certain moments throughout that look like they've come straight out of the Dark Knight comic. So I highly approve. The score was amazing. I liked how they incorporated elements of the Man of Steel theme for Superman. Batman gets his own epic theme. Wonder Woman's theme is so badass. Lex Luthor's, I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. I'll explain, yes again, in the negatives. So, those were all of my positives. My negatives. The editing was so shoddy. I think the person who edited the trailer that pretty much revealed all the major plot points, I'm pretty sure he had a hand in editing this movie, because it just... the scene progression was just really weird. So you start off with the opening scenes, and you've kind of got about 2 or 3 merged into one for Batman and his establishment, his origin story, The thing with the bats was just weird. Like, the bats make him fly, and the bats are nowhere near him. He's just floating up, and it's just like, really? But you've got all that stuff, and that was okay. You know, you've kind of got that emotional impact right at the beginning. Then you go to all the stuff when Bruce Wayne goes to Metropolis on the day that Zod and Clark are fighting, and you see that Bruce Wayne was there, and one of his towers got knocked over, and about 300 people died. He lost a friend, and you kind of that was good. Then they cut straight to Lois Lane and Superman coming to save her from terrorists, as you do. Even though the fact she made goo-goo eyes at him when he was doing it, I was just like, Lois, just stop. Just please stop being a damsel in distress. You seem so feisty. Just stop. Please. Please. And then it goes straight to a court case. Then it goes back to Bruce Wayne. Then it goes to Lois and Clark. Then it goes to Batman again. Then it goes to Lex Luthor and the Senator. It just felt like there were loads of different scenes that didn't really work cohesively together. So you'd be like getting invested in Batman's story, and then, nope, Superman. We're going back to Superman. Even though it is his film, technically. It's supposed to be a sequel to Man of Steel. Do not go into this film thinking it's a sequel to Man of Steel. It's not. It's pretty much a Batman film. You can tell Zack Snyder had more of a preference for Batman. Which, you know, I can't say I disagree with. So, you've got... It felt like the various editors had about 2 different films that they wanted to make, and they just merged all of these scenes in any order without really thinking of the implications on the story. So the editing was a bit off for me. It didn't really work for me. The score for Lex Luthor, I like it. I like the beat, I like the sort of tone of it, but I don't think it works for Lex Luthor. To me, it seems more suited to a character like the Joker or the Riddler. It just didn't feel like Lex Luthor's theme. So I'm just sitting there just thinking, I like this, but not for this character. And speaking of Lex Luthor, I did not like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I mean, I know when the casting was announced, everyone was hating on Ben Affleck as Batman, who ended up being probably the best of the cast, along with Jeremy Irons. He was one of the best things about it. Nobody was convinced by Jesse Eisenberg. They probably had good reason. To me, even though I know he's Lex Luthor Jr., but he doesn't seem like a cohesive character, and he's in the kind of idea of the stoic businessman. He just seemed a bit insane from the offset and really socially awkward. I'm just thinking, how have you succeeded in business by being this awkward and sort of talking to yourself and doing the nervous twitch and going, just if you want to look crazy, you just go, It's like, typical crazy characterisation. And I'm just like, you probably would have been better as the Riddler, in my opinion. He should have been the Riddler, or I don't even know if he would have been a good choice for the Joker. But he didn't seem to fit. There were moments of Jesse Eisenberg's acting in The Social Network that seemed far more intimidating than Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of Lex Luthor. So I'm just sitting there just thinking, something's a bit off here. So I don't know if I particularly liked the casting choice. I don't think it was the choice they should have made, in my own opinion. Considering you could have had Bryan Cranston Seriously. Mr. Heisenberg. Well, I mean, you know, it would have been, I would have preferred Bryan Cranston because he's a really good actor. But no, they decided to go the younger route. Okay. Another thing I didn't like plot-wise was the fact that they pretty much chicken out of the whole death of Superman. Because you've got the final shot of Superman's homemade wooden coffin that, you know, you've got these two funerals running simultaneously. You've got Clark's simple funeral back home and his state funeral with like a black coffin with the Superman logo embossed on it. Which, I like how you're trying to, you know, match the coffin with what colour Superman's next costume is, according to what I could find on Wikipedia. But you've got all of the establishment for the Justice League kind of stuff going on in the corner. Then you've got Lois Lane dropping the dirt onto the coffin wearing the engagement ring. And then you see the particles of dirt starting to move. And I'm just thinking, really? Are you going to chicken out of that so soon? I know he is in the Justice League film, but I'm just like, you had a really powerful moment there, and you pretty much just chickened out on it. So, There is also the fact I don't like the fact that they killed Superman this early on. You needed more time to get to know him. You had Man of Steel, where you don't really learn much about him. It's him sort of stepping up to the role of Superman. We needed a film with him where he's trying to adapt so that we can emotionally invest with him. He hardly... I mean, I think the screen time of Batman and Superman is about equal, but there is more of a weighting towards Batman. So even in this film, you don't really get that emotional connection with Superman that you do with Batman. I don't like the fact that they killed him off this early. And I also don't like the fact that they try to shove everything into this film for the Justice League. I really feel like they were trying to be too ambitious. They were trying to do what the Avengers did, but without the solo films beforehand. I think you needed Batman's solo film and Wonder Woman's solo film to come out beforehand, before this film, so you've got the establishment already there. That's the reason that the Avengers worked. You had the establishment. Here you don't have that real establishment. Everything feels shoehorned in so that they can have their Justice League film next year. It was just... I wasn't particularly sure about all of the Justice League stuff. I understand you wanted like Wonder Woman in there, but I don't think you needed her. I don't think you needed Wonder Woman. I don't think you needed Doomsday. I think the whole Batman versus Superman thing should have been the central focus. It doesn't really get the attention it deserves, in my opinion, because you've kind of got to get that over and done with so that the trilogy can fight Doomsday and you can kill Superman off. I was just sitting there just thinking, really? Because you had the thing to bring Batman and Superman together. You had the fact that their mothers both had the same name, which I'd never thought of that before, but that is really clever. The more you know. So you kind of had that. You could have left it there and like had Easter eggs towards Wonder Woman. But as it went, they just tried to cram too much stuff in there. If you'd have left Doomsday out, it would have had a shorter runtime, but not considerably shorter. I feel that you could have done more with their conflict. You could have had them like fight once before. You could have just done so much differently. You could have had more with Lex Luthor trying to emotionally manipulate Batman, because you see what he does to Superman when he abducts Martha Kent. You don't really see him explicitly do that to Bruce Wayne, but then again I don't know if that would have worked either. I don't know, I think you could have got rid of Doomsday. Even though I did like the Doomsday fight, I just don't like the fact that they tried to be way too ambitious and they suffered from what I like to call Age of Ultronitis, which is where you try and set up everything in this film and you forget about actually making it a good story. Because it just felt so choppy and changey, and it was just like... But I did really have fun with this film, and that's the really weird thing. I don't know why I did, but I think the action was perfectly choreographed. The cinematography was gorgeous. The score was amazing. The performances of the majority of the cast were fantastic. But it was just the editing, and there are a few weaknesses in the plot. Like, I mean, how does Batman know to coordinate with Lex Luthor so that on the same day they are both going to try and get Superman to fight Batman? How does Batman know that Lex Luthor has just abducted Martha Kent and is going to send him to fight him so that he puts on his signal to try and provoke him? How do they know that's on the same... they're going to do that on the same night? And Lex Luthor doesn't just send Superman to him really off guard. Like, oh no. Oh no. There were some things that just really didn't make sense like that. But I had fun with this film, and it's not as bad as the critics have said. It's not a phenomenal masterpiece by any means, but it is a good film. It is an enjoyable film, and if you appreciate action films, if you appreciate Superman and Batman, you will come out of this film thinking it's a solid film. It's a bit choppy and changey, but I like where it's going, and I am excited for Suicide Squad and the Justice League films. I am so excited to see how they're going to bring Superman back, and I think that's what this film was trying to do, get you psyched up for the other films, but kind of at the expense of some plot elements in the film itself. Like, I mean, come on, what was that Easter egg with all of the metahuman stuff? You have Wonder Woman find out about the metahumans through an email. All of the things, an email with security footage on it. Really? I mean, I don't think well, I want to study script writing at university. I'm not particularly great as a screenwriter at the moment, but I think even I could have written something better than that to establish these Easter eggs if you really needed them. And the dream sequences were way too long. You could have cut at least half an hour off the runtime by getting rid of the dream sequences. Nightmare Batman? Because most of his dream sequences, they're his. Superman gets one with his dad. That is it. He gets one with Jonathan Kent. That is it. Batman gets at least 10 minutes of dream sequences, which don't really make any sense because he's dreaming about this kind of apocalypse, Darkseid Easter egg type things, when he's never seen Darkseid. He doesn't know anything about Darkseid's minions or his symbol. It's kind of like he's being shown the future, and then he gets his heart ripped out of his chest by Superman. Then he wakes up and he's got the Flash coming towards him, telling him, oh, Lois is the key, which if she is, God help us all. And then he wakes up again. It was like Dreamception. I mean, I know Christopher Nolan, you're associated with this film, but really you don't have to reference Inception in every film you do, if you could kindly refrain. It was just things like that that kind of annoyed me a little bit, but on the whole it was an enjoyable film, and I will probably buy it as soon as it comes out. Probably also because I am now in love with both Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, so yeah. So I would give it a 7 out of 10. It's not a terrible film, it is enjoyable. There is humour in it as well, so there are a few moments that are funny. Usually They come from the exchange between Bruce Wayne and Alfred. So yeah, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down below, and as always, have a fantastic day.